Okay.
Thank you. Welcome everybody this evening. We'll stand. Almighty God, you have blessed us with memory, reason, and skill. We ask to use them wisely in the service of our town government. We ask this in thy holy name. Amen. Most salute the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I thank you all for coming. If we could approve the minutes of our last two meetings, we had a regular board meeting in October on the 13th and a special meeting on the 15th. If I could have a motion to approve those, please.
Which meetings are you looking at?
October 13th, the regular board meeting.
I'd like to suggest a correction or an addition. On page 3, halfway down, there was a motion made to accept a resignation. And it says a council member made the motion. I don't know who it was. See that? It says council member made a motion to accept, etc. Motion was seconded by council member Moore.
I see it right before the roll call.
I'm sorry?
I said I also see it, Clark, it's right above the roll call vote.
I think it was you, Rick, that made the
I believe it was. Yep.
Okay. You get that one, George?
I don't see that. Above that, there's a motion made by me and then seconded by you to transfer money. And there's a roll call vote. Motion carried. And then Larry read about the resignation. And then we made a motion to accept that. And my memory is, I think it was Hunter who made the motion,
Correct,
but it's not there.
correct. That's why she's correcting it. Yeah, she's
Right.
documenting it.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as corrected.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried, thank you. On October 15th, we had a special board meeting. That was a result of a question on the regular meeting pertaining to the EDU charges for UPS. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of October 15th, 2020.
I'll
Thank you.
second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll
Thank you.
abstain from voting. I was not at the meeting.
Sorry about that. The town clerk's monthly report?
I make a motion that we approve the town clerk monthly report dated October 1st through October 31st.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any questions? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Julie? Thank you. Just a few items to catch up on here. The Salvation Army is looking for bell ringers. I know it's gonna be a hard year to get bell ringers, people. The contact on that, it's a 2-hour block for everybody that rings bells. I usually do it right here at the Price Chopper, I believe. Okay, the information is on Facebook, but John Zerl also has that information. Okay, so if anybody would like to be a bell ringer, please contact John or go on to the Facebook. Okay. The JCO contract, that's a yearly contract that we have. They usually request a yearly amount for our contract. This year they did not. We just got a bill this week, I believe, and they had given themselves, or, well, let's put it, a 6% raise. And we kind of took a second look at that. We haven't given anybody, including the libraries or anybody else, more than 2%. And the difference between 2 and 6% is $1,175. Sarah, you can chime in on this if you'd like. The 2% raise would have been $340, roughly $340, bring it up to $17,411. Okay, the 6% raise would have brought it up to $18,425. It's the will of the board. We had not budgeted 6% for that item.
We did budget something, didn't we? Is there any budget?
We had budgeted 2%.
2%.
Now, last year,
Okay, besides that, I
Uh,
don't know.
last year, they came back and they wanted an additional hour, do you remember that issue? Per day, and they raised us 4,000 roughly. We agreed to that, but the need was there. It's the will of the board, nobody else got 6% though, that's the issue.
You say you just received a communication from them.
This week,
Correct.
Is there just a dollar amount request, or is there justification for it?
No, there's a contract. I called to inquire and they said it's because of the increase in the wages for New York State for the minimum wage, they said. That's the biggest reason for the increase. I did stress that with everything going on, 6%, I would need to come and speak to you guys, because that's a big increase. But they would understand if we went to 2.
Well, we've already put in a dollar amount in our budget.
Correct, that's what's on the contract, that's the 2%,
2% is in that.
correct.
The rate increase is what, 70 cents? That sound right?
All right.
But not for services, they're just thinking about payroll.
Correct.
Was there any
now,
justification based upon increase in services because of the current COVID situation going on? Is that included in that request? or
They did not say additional services, no. The biggest thing they said that was driving the increase was the minimum wage increase.
now JCO got some stimulus money, should we call it?
They got part of for last year, they got the PPP protection program, and they got some of it forgiven, so we did get an approximate 4,000 back from last year.
In fact, the offices.
Was
the office
closed
hours
because
were
of the
a lot
virus.
less too, you know.
Yes.
There's no doubt it's a vital service, you know, we're not arguing that point. Some thoughts, please?
If it's budgeted for 2%, it's kind of late to change it now.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jason and Clark?
So, I agree, the request probably should have come
Earlier.
a little
Yes.
earlier.
Normally it does.
It would've-
Normally, we get a request before we formulate the budgets.
And she did say that it was their fault, because they were dealing with the PPP protection program, they were dealing with a couple other things, so the contract came out late. So that's why, when I inquired, she goes, we understand completely, no issues. And they're hoping that next year, you know what I'm saying, there's not supposed to be an increase in the minimum wage, so, you know what I'm saying, it'll close the gap between the two of us.
The stimulus money, what happens with that? That just rolled back into their budget, or, okay,
That rolled back into that account, yes.
okay.
Either their account or to our account.
Well, into our account,
For
but
them.
for them.
So they had access to that?
No, it's ours.
It's earmarked for the town.
Yeah, it comes back to the town because JCEO was closed for quite a while due to the virus. So the services weren't able to be used, so they kinda like gave us the refund back.
So it's a $4,000 increase into our operating budget.
Correct.
Kinda can't lose, right?
Well, unless you're a person that needs it, you know, that's the oops.
Should some of, can some of that be earmarked for what they're asking for?
Well, yeah, it's back in our budget, so to speak, it's in our,
Is that money already accounted for, is what I'm saying?
Well, I'm not gonna tell you, of course, it's in this year's budget, you know, this year's, and with the reduction of, like, the, sales tax and, you know, what I'm saying, different things like that, it kind of, it's in the A fund, yes. But with the unknown with the virus going on for next year and stuff,
Right, you don't know what the funds
and the
are.
sales tax, that's my question.
How did was the $4,000 sent to us from the state to benefit or support JCEO?
No. JCEO applied for the Pay Protection Program forgiveness. So when they received it, they distributed it amongst the towns that
Okay,
helped them with their budget. So since it was closed for so long, some of that came back to us as a refund
right.
from JCEO.
But originally it was earmarked for divvy that was sent to us for them.
No.
came back to us for a bill that we overpaid, let's put it that way.
Well, we didn't get the
overpay it, but it
services. We didn't get the services because with the virus, JCEO closed down for a little while. So the government gave them a supplement to help them out, kind of thing. And then they distributed it amongst the towns that, you know, furnishes their budgets.
But it's not in next year's budget.
It's not in next year's
It is
budget.
not. And it's kinda tough, you know, when you get it late in the last quarter of the year,
Right.
you know, 6%
You talking
versus
about the request or the money?
the request,
Okay, you're right.
so.
Were they asking every municipality for that increase?
I do not know.
Okay,
I was just asking about our increase.
because I guess that's the other question. Is there then, if they're not receiving these funds, does that mean they're gonna diminish services? They didn't mention any of that, right?
No.
Okay. I guess we can't speculate on that, the inside, so.
Can I have a motion one way or the other, please?
I'll make a motion that the funding remain with a 2% increase over what this year, next year's budget.
Okay, thank you,
I will second that.
thank you. Any discussion, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried, thank you. I'm gonna keep it, okay, I think we're close enough to order after. This first hearing should be just moments, I believe, then we'll try to get with the village, okay? I don't wanna keep you waiting either. Do we need go into public hearing for this?
Yes.
Okay, so I need a motion to go from regular meeting to a public hearing.
I make a motion that we go from regular into a public hearing.
Okay, thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Basically, this, is a motion, I'm gonna have Sarah write, get it on this one too, it's authorizing the tax cap, Sarah, which we did not exceed.
Right, we did not exceed the tax cap, but Jane always told me to do this process just in case something happens.
Okay. So, is there any questions? It's really pretty simple. Our budget is together and it's within the 2% tax cap. We just need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve
Thank
the
you,
local law number 1 for 2020.
thank you,
I'll second.
thank you. Any questions, concerns? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, passes. Now we can go back into regular session.
I make a motion that we move back from public back into our regular session meeting.
Second. Okay. We got at least 15 minutes. I'd like to entertain the village. If we go over that, it's gonna be a long time over that, I'd like to come back to the second public hearing, but otherwise, we'll stick with it, okay? Let me see, you got 4 members here this evening, I believe, of the water board and
Yes, yes, and thank you for inviting the water board. We're not here representing the village, we're here representing the board
Okay,
itself.
okay, thank you.
And
That's in the minutes.
here to answer any questions you have regarding our report. Hopefully shed light if there's gray areas that you're concerned about. I think we found the report clear and comprehensive. Yeah, I could do that. We'll do an introduction. Myself, I'm Tom Trombley.
Yes.
This is Kim Trombley and
Steve LePage.
Steve LePage,
Michael Fonda.
Michael Fontaine, and Michael Bayshard is not present tonight. He was unable to make it.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Not an issue, you wanna explain to us how you formulated it, or you just want questions, or?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know how you, everybody has reviewed this, correct?
Yeah, I got extra copies here.
So is there specific sections that you have questions on? I'd hate to have to read the whole thing, but if you'd like me to, I can read the synopsis out, and we can attack them piece by piece.
Yeah. As you know, Tom, we had, some of these didn't come through very well, print-wise, you know, I mean, they were very, very faint.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, it's like the original document, I don't have a problem with. It printed well. And when it was scanned, it didn't pick up some of the attachments as well. I understand that. So I came back and Sarah had recopied them. I hope that the second set of copies came out better.
Okay.
So we're here to fill in any gaps you have, and I guess we could also start, I could also start off by saying we presented to the village board last night, and they were receptive of the recommendations set forth in the document. So, and as you know, in the email, I requested both boards to correspond to each other so they know where they stand in regards to going forward from this.
That's okay. Is there anywhere in here where you itemized what it costs to run the water plant?
Yeah, it's in the attachment of the expenses and revenue.
And those are two, Tom, in the attachment 4.0 that you're referencing, on that page 36 and 37, those numbers are clearly not legible.
36 and 37?
36 through actually 38,
Even on your second copy?
even on our second copy.
It was better, but it wasn't.
Okay.
Pardon?
Yeah, you could do it.
Yeah, page 36. Two copies of 36 here, both have. 37 I can't read,
Correct.
38
And
is,
38, 39 is clear.
same here. 39
on-
might not.
On page 40, there's, I don't know if it's just missing, but under the budgetary and the revenue, there doesn't seem to be any monetary amounts there at the bottom. But just those 3 pages, I think, are the only ones I have in question, Tom.
Total budgetary revenue account is a 0. Then total liabilities and fund balance is legible, which is the same as fund balance above it. So, okay, so in regards to that, would you, what would you recommend? Do you wanna see these copies briefly?
I'd like to have copies of each of those that are not legible, so I can kind of look through
We
those.
can try recopying this, but I think we may have to go back to the original document.
Right, that's what I'm wondering. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, Sarah's making that one, thank you for serving. And
Correct.
everybody that serves on the board, thank you so much. I realize it's an extra ask of the people that are doing that, so thank you. You wanna just take
You're
2
welcome.
seconds and maybe walk us through the process that you went through, maybe to not just, I think Rick and I maybe kinda have some understanding, although I'm not really sure I completely go through, we went through the process to make sure this water board was up and operational, but for the home viewers and anybody else, like, what was the process in which you worked to then generate this actual report? I mean, I'm not looking for like step by step, but just give us the general overview of what the water board did in order to get here.
Okay, well, I guess in general, one of the first things we tackled, because it was the most difficult, was determining the metrics for the O&M. Was piecing apart all the expenses of the water plant and the new district, and trying to determine what was a fair metric to be included in that O&M document. So that took weeks of meetings. I mean, we met, Sarah can attest, we were here often, we did a lot of work at home in between meetings, but there was many, many hours put into O&M to ensure that it was accurate and fair. In regards to the rest, I mean, as far as debt service, that's pretty cut and dry. It was just a matter of getting the reports from both municipalities for the EDU assessments. Water supply, and which includes water rates. Michael Fontaine can attest to that. He did a lot of work in that area, making sure we knew what the raw cost of water was. Then looking at both the town records and the village records to ensure that the prices being charged for revenue in regards to water were accurate, sufficient, or not overboard. But the O&M was the biggest chunk of work, seriously.
I think for the first time around, it was, grabbing here, grabbing there, and where to go from here. And I think the second time around, hopefully it will be a lot easier, because we think we have the system down to where we can get the information and retrieve the information. And it's outlined in this report as far as when the documents are required from the village and from the town. We are going to set what, quarterly meetings to review this information, to stay on top of it.
Sounds about.
Because it can get a little out of hand
That's what I'm saying.
sometimes. And,
And that's at the darkest.
how did it come out?
No,
Nah, it's not legible.
I tried.
No,
How you doing?
if I'd have been aware that your second set of copies weren't sufficient, the thing to do would have been to just recopy this document separately instead of the scanned version. And we can provide that if you'd like. It'd be as simple as getting the village to print out a number of copies.
Anywhere's in here, Tom, does it tell us what the actual cost is to produce the water?
Yes, Mike, you wanna answer that? That's in your,
I think, yeah,
five
if you go to section 2,
Mhm.
page 4. Village, then it says the raw cost of water. So what was done here, we took the expenditure that the village of Champlain expended to adjust the amount of money associated with producing water. So we took the expenditures, which total $248,000, and then we had the total number of gallons produced in 2019. And the total gallons produced was 41,946 million gallons, but that would be in thousands of gallons expressed on the report.
Yeah.
So taking the total expenditure and dividing it by the gallons produced, the raw cost of water came out to $5.92 per 1,000 gallons. And that's the bare bones.
And if you, Mike, if you don't mind, I'll add, you'll notice that there was almost 11 million gallons not billed. So in my last paragraph, that represents treated water that is lost through hydrant flushing, water main breaks, and required effluent during the treatment process at the new water plant. So that during the softening process, there's a backflush that goes on constantly, and that water is just effluent going back to the river. I don't have the breakdown of what those would be. It would be very hard to capture. I might be able to get Woody to try to come up with a number for the effluent, but it's a large amount of water. You could probably break it down in thirds. But that's 11 million, so it's like almost 25% of what we make, we lose.
Would some of it be from the water breaks on Route
A portion,
9?
yes, that's a portion of this, that's what I'm saying, a portion of it is water main breaks. And if you look in the O and M at the flushing amounts, it takes a ton of water to flush too. And it's done twice a year, so that's also part of that 11 million gallons. That is,
So, I can't tell you the exact number of years, 4 or 5 years ago when the project started, the village was charging $2.88, I believe, to their residents. So now you're telling me the water, to produce the same amount, It's costing us twice as much to produce the water today than it
It's a
was.
different water plant too.
Yeah, it's a much larger water plant.
Plus your
Before,
chemicals.
all we did was pull water out of the well and chlorinate it and send it to the tanks. Now we take it out of the well, we chlorinate it, then it goes through a process to dechlorinate it before it goes through more chemicals to remove the hardness, and then gets rechlorinated again. We all actually toured the plant when we started this endeavor. It was actually difficult because it's right when COVID, we lost a lot of time too. Besides that, I just want to point that out, when COVID hit in March, that really stalled this water board for a while. We finally went to the plant probably late April? Early May?
No, late April.
Late April, and it was a great learning experience for all of us as to the extent of the process now to treat that water. So we went from a simple process to a very long and lengthy and more extensive, I should say. But it's worth it, we have a better quality water, but it's costly, Larry.
I understand.
And other costs continually goes up, like testing standards, et cetera. There will be new testing this coming year, that will be added. I don't have those notes with me for the cost. It's not exorbitant, but it's another added cost that is gonna be a requirement for the health department.
That's that extra 3,200, is it that
That might be-
$800 per quarter?
Yes, that's.
And that is on
exactly-
top of the 4,200?
I believe, yes, yes.
This $592, and you're charging six, I got it here, $625, I believe, to your residents?
5 and a quarter.
5 and a quarter.
5 and a quarter,
Yes.
okay.
Yes. The recommended rate for the town district is 6 and a quarter.
So, there's only 67 cents difference there.
Yeah, if you look at it that way, but you've also got other income that I shouldn't say income, the correct word is revenue, in regards to service charges, et cetera, for both commercial and residential, that also add toward that. And then the O&M is considered revenue as well to go against that budgeted amount. So it's not additional money, it's part of what's needed to meet the budget. So that's why you're able to sell the water slightly under the raw cost.
But certainly that 67 cents difference would not cover your yearly payment, would it?
Well, it's in there.
Pardon?
It should, it's in there. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Larry.
Well, you're telling us it costs $5.92 to produce the water.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that. You're charging your residents 5 and a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
There's 67 cents difference.
Mm-hmm.
Does that 67 cents help to repay your yearly loan? How do you generate the money?
That's how we generate the money to pay our share of the loan, yes, it's through the sale of water. In regards to, if you're asking me that as a village board member, yes. As a water board member, I would say yes, that's how they do it. But it's not just in the K-Gal cost, there's also the service charges and the O&M. To help share the cost of the plant, well, that becomes revenue going towards the total budget. I don't know if I'm answering that correctly, any one of you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but the point with putting the raw cost of water was, is we need to know what it is. And it is what it is, it doesn't take $2 to make 1,000 gallons of water, it takes $5.92 total.
One of the questions that I had was in reference to that about 10.9 million gallons of water that was lost due to those 3 areas that you identified with. Is there any proposal as to how to identify specifically what is being lost within each of those areas? And are there some plans that we can put forth to try to limit how much is being lost? To lose a quarter of the total water production is substantial, I guess, and so I'm looking at, you know, what can we do to kind of identify with becoming more efficient, I guess, is the best word.
I think
Well,
that
go ahead, Mike.
The major, and I don't know if you wanna call it loss, but the water that's used to regenerate the softening operation is major. I'm not sure how many gallons we're talking about. And the other major category would be the flushing of the hydrants. Now, in between that, you have leakages, maybe, or whatever, but the major portion is associated with regeneration and flushing, from what I've seen anyway.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Can I interject just a comment here? I have no idea how much water it takes to flush. No idea,
Well-
but I do believe that the long 12-inch line that goes all the way to Rouse's Point, that line does not get flushed as often perhaps as it should. And I think that the town may be told by some agency that your line, you gotta flush it, and there's a schedule how often. There's a lot of testing that has to be done, and I'm not sure that that is on schedule.
Well, it has to be done a minimum of twice a year.
Twice? Okay.
Minimum. Should that large line be done more often?
I don't know how many times it's
Some
done
would
now,
say
so
yes. I'm trying to find my attachment.
I did get a call today that's gonna be flushed in the next very few days. They want the chlorine residue, whatever it is. If it sits in the pipe too long, the chlorine is not as effective as it should be. Okay.
you say you got a call from?
The mayor, she called me, she told me they will be flushing Route 11 line.
Oh,
Yes,
okay,
they're
all right,
flushing right
Days.
now,
okay.
this
Okay.
week.
But am I correct here, Tom, maybe I'm saying this wrong, I'll listen. You're telling us that it costs $5.92 to produce water, and you're selling water to your residents for $5.25, am I correct?
Yes, Larry, yes you are. We've said that a couple different ways. And we're selling water to the town district for $6.25, and then on top of that, there's service charges and commercial fees that are also part of revenue. It's not just the K-gal that generates our revenue in regards to having enough revenue to cover the expenses. Is there any better way I can?
I believe the service charge for the village of Champlain, for each customer is $27 a quarter.
That's correct, that's what's in the report.
Yeah. So that's
That's
above and beyond,
And a $60 minimum on the commercial.
right.
Fire service, when the fire department has to put out a fire, is that included in the 10 million?
Yes, that would be in there. I don't think we had any major fires that year, but yes, you would see a larger loss of water if we did.
And just for clarification, that $27 is an annual cost, correct, to your residential?
You know, quarterly.
Is it quarterly?
Yeah.
Because I know commercial had indicated that it was quarterly, but I didn't know in terms of. Thank you.
I have a question about how the village uses the ADU assessment. The town assesses all people in District 6 an EDU charge, estimated daily usage, based upon the nature of their property. And the proceeds from that, the town collects, and that's what we have to use to pay down our portion of the loan.
Correct.
The village does not use EDU assessments to in any way,
No.
okay, but whenever I talk with most of my colleagues down here, it's unclear to me, and I think to them also, how does the EDU assessment in the village get used in computing the water numbers?
Just per our agreement, that we're basing everything off our EDU ratios, or differences between the two municipalities. It's just, that's the only reason we did an EDU assessment,
Right?
is to use it based on the IMA that we agreed on.
So that figure is used in an existing contract?
Yes.
And I'm really not clear as to how it's worked into the formula.
Okay, so if you go,
I believe it's the O and M.
it's the O and M, and also the debt service. So if you go to the debt distribution spreadsheet, it's based off a ratio of the village at 32.46%
Okay,
to 67.54%. It's based off that ratio of EDUs.
okay. So that's how the EDU assessment is used.
Yes, and because we weren't the lead agency on the water project, we weren't required to have to
Okay.
get our,
Assign EDUs.
assign EDUs and use EDUs as a form of a tax, so to speak, in order to raise funds for the repayment. But to answer your other question on the flushing, just on the town district side alone, the flushing amounts to over 540,000 gallons per flush,
Per flush for,
so 500,000 gallons,
in the town, or,
just the town.
okay,
So that's over 1 million gallons per year
all right.
out of that 10.9 million gallons, with just the town district flushing.
Does the board have any other questions?
Yeah, I want to make sure that all of us understand, on page 5, there's an increase of operation and maintenance over the year of $10,843. Okay, and the water board is recommending to, that's, the town would have to pay the additional amount. To offset that, the village recommends, the water board recommends a reduction in the water rate by the village of 97 cents to balance the significant rise in operation and maintenance paid by the town. Without this adjustment, town district users would have to endure an increase in the same amount to an already substantial rate. So what I think what you're recommending is that somewhere in here, the village is going to reduce the charge of water to the town to 97 cents per kgal. And when that's calculated in, it's going to result in almost, no pun intended, a wash in terms of the increase.
Correct, based on you purchased over 11 million gallons from us in 2019, so therefore, that is to try to
That's on
offset.
page 5.
And again, that's why I said, you know, that additional $10,800 is, you know, goes against the budget. Therefore, we're able to do that. When Larry keeps asking how we can sell water less than what it costs to make it, there's two different things. There's other revenue besides just the KGAL charge.
But other than that $27 that you charge your residential, and other than the $62.50 quarterly that you charge your commercial, and in addition to that O&M that the town pays the village, is there any other sources of revenue, Tom?
No? No, that's all.
Thank you.
At least from what I'm reading, if I understand it right, the increase in sales is through the town. The town has increased water usage, where the village hasn't increased a lot, is that correct?
I'm not sure if we really analyzed that, all right.
Well, I see here.
Are you looking at attachment 5? Where are you looking?
Well, I'm right on, I know at one time we used less than 42% of the water. But now we're up to, town ratio, it looks like 42.2%.
That's based off EDUs.
That's off EDUs, yeah.
Yeah, it's not off water, not off amounts of water, and we really didn't, I don't have it anywhere in here to compare.
The only area that I see that is in attachment 5, it's on page 42 of 46. Is there another page that we might be able to reference other than that? I think that's the only one, right, Doug?
Oh, let's see. Yes, it shows the total gallons billed, both village and town. Yes, it is, Rick. So that's where we're looking at 2018 and 2019. And as you can see, the total produced is very close, within 300,000 gallons.
What page you on now, Tom?
42. Page 42 of 46, attachment 5. So there, if you wanted to compare the gallons between village and town, you can look at those two columns. Essentially like 2 million gallons. And let me point out, those are gallons billed.
Yeah, I see that.
I have a question, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
On page 45, there's a 3-bar graph. And one bar tells me that we spent total plant expenses is $123,000 and change. And then next to that, that's lowered to 96.7, and it says adjusted expenses.
Mhm.
How
That-
is there adjustment there?
The adjustment is the metrics that we chose. In other words, in regards to O and M, we're not taking the total plan expenses and expecting the town to share that. We're taking the additional expenses that were brought on by anything that had to do with, in addition to what we had. That was the whole, O and M was originally thought of when we started this project and made our first agreement, was to help offset the burden to the village users by taking on the new plant, the new district. So those adjusted expenses represents the metrics that we chose as a board. So, can you guys help me with an example of that? I think if we go back to the O and M document itself, you can see what they are.
On page 6. Page 6.
Correct, but I think if we go to the spreadsheet, it'll demonstrate even further. I don't have them marked. The O&M spreadsheet is 7. Just give me a second. Should be attachment 7.
It's 7.
That's your,
So if you go to page 44, 46.
yeah.
You're gonna see where, for an example, this is just an example of how you end up with those adjusted amounts. The first line item is F8310.1, payroll for the office, board salaries and Juanita's salary. 2019 and 2020 expended $13,628.30. Deducted $13,030.22, leaves a net amount of $598.08, which represents only Juanita's salary, which is estimated at 16 hours per year. That's what she estimated she puts in towards the water plan. So that $598 is part of that adjusted amount of $98,000 in that column. So everything in this net amount represents that column, which totals $96,785.50, excuse me. So that's where that bar came from. What'll be neat going forward, and if we'd have had more time, it would have been cool to look at previous years and try to graph it, so you can see what's changed. But based on the stall that we had in March, April, and May, there wasn't enough time. But next year, there'll be, in that same graph, there'll be 2 years' worth of data, so we can start seeing if there's any trends in increasing costs or lower costs. And
Does
probably
this
could add,
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
Does this report reflect any town incurred expenses when it comes to water-related things?
No, I don't believe so, right, Melvin?
I don't think so.
No,
No, I don't think so.
no, I can't think, so what would you specifically be referencing? Like, it wouldn't be anything that you're expending in the district, except we did look at that in regards to your cost of water to your users. But no, it's not anything to do with the O and M.
Page 43, attachment 6, has the water expense for the town of Champlain. So if you want to look at what your expenses are, just go to page 43.
Right, but that was only used to look at
Right, but-
making sure that they had enough revenue to cover their budget.
but if they're asking about their expenses, it's laid out right there.
Sure. And it's also where the little EDU report is.
And the board used for its calculation purposes EDUs for arriving at all numbers, correct?
Correct.
Not actual water usage.
Correct, only in order to calculate the debt repayment, the annual debt repayment, and the O and M.
page 45 is, are you adding the adjusted expenses in the proposed town O and M is equals the total plant expenses on page 45?
On page 45, we're going to the graph, I take it?
Yes.
Okay, a second. Part of the desk. Okay, so the town O and M, the green bar, the
Well,
$40,000.
you don't have color-coded
It's
bars.
the middle one.
Okay.
Well, the middle one is the adjusted expenses, and the one way to your right is the town O and M.
And so you adding both of those together to
No.
equal?
No, no.
What's the difference, because you have more than the total plant expenses when you add those two up.
Well, it's because you're paying a portion of the middle one, okay? So the 96,785 represents the metrics, the adjusted amount based on the metrics that we chose, that we felt was fair as a shared cost. Then the bar on the left, that 40,000, represents your share of that, not the total. It's never gonna total, so it's a 42%, if I remember right?
Yes, 42%.
Exactly.
So that's 42% of that. Because as the IMA stated, it would be the O and M would be based off the total ratio of EDUs between the town and village. So the middle bar is the total amount of, we'll call it shared costs based off our metrics. And then the other one is the amount owed based off the ratio of EDUs.
Any other questions, Jerry?
No, it's just, if we can just get copies of those pages, Tom. You know, other than that, I think, the only thing that I think that the town might wanna discuss is there was a section in here, excuse me for a minute for wasting your time. It had to do with your additional recommendations.
Yep.
Specifically, the recommendation by the board to be able to look at the village taking responsibility for one of the tanks, the Prospect Street tank. And again, I don't know if everybody's had a chance to really read through this, but what your thoughts are on that. And so,
It's a savings to the town.
Well, when the board was analyzing your expenses, you know, and we were also all trying to determine if there was some way to lower the cost to the end user in regards to the town district, in regards to cost of water. And it was quick to see that there was a substantial cost, substantial amount of money being put aside, I should say, to service both of those tanks. And I think Sarah came in one day and pointed it out to us as well. So with that recommendation is, in fairness, we thought, if you're sharing O and M of the plant, then we should share O and M of the tanks. It's in hindsight. You and Jason worked on the IMA with us, we never thought of, that never even came to thought of any cost to those tanks. You know, you kind of think of, well, we've got two new tanks, one's ours one's theirs, more or less, but we realized that, you know, they're both the towns by ownership. So the recommendation to the village, is to share in that cost by either taking over one of them. I mean, there's probably a variety of ways, that's our recommendation, we thought would be the cleanest. For the town to take care of the repairs on one or the maintenance on one, the operation and maintenance on one, and the village on the other. And the village is receptive of that, we just, they are requesting, new quotes from, Aquastor to see what the cost would be before they make a final board decision. But very receptive of taking that over, which would allow you to save some overhead and hopefully reduce to the end user.
I think it was 18,000, wasn't it?
That's what they're putting, that's what the town is currently putting away
Right.
per year,
Right.
yes, out of their water budget. So how does the board feel about that section?
Well, we do need to have a special fund for that, because as time goes on, that's gonna get more expensive. The first 2 years is very little, I guess we got an inspection coming up, but 5 and 10 years from now, it's gonna be much more expensive.
Right,
First, it's like a new car, you know, the first few years is not much.
well, that's why the village board is requesting fresh data, so we know how much, you know, so the village would know how much they need to put aside to create that fund and get it started, and then put it into the budget to continually add to it. But I guess the question I have as a water board member is, how do you feel of that recommendation? Because the village was receptive to it, they weren't in disagreement when we presented it last night.
It's a savings to town.
I know, that's what I say, it's a savings, so,
There's no added liability.
no,
If the tank falls over, it's your problem, right?
well, this is an operation and maintenance now. But it would require, in my opinion anyways, at least an addendum to the current IMA, so it's spelled out in writing as an agreement. So I would say once the village gets their data back, to make a decision, that would be the next step, is putting a small committee together to write that addendum. Does that sound reasonable?
Anybody else have any questions? Do you have any questions for us?
No, I guess the only question we would have is, are you in agreement with the recommendations, or is it something that you're gonna not do or push back on? That's why we realized there was gonna be a lack of communication between the two boards. That's why we requested that each board provide correspondence to the other. So in other words, now that we've had our meeting at the village, Janet should be sending you some correspondence that, you know, yes, we're gonna lower the rate to this, yes, we're looking into the tanks, we agree with it, etc. So you each know where we stand, otherwise we felt like we were in the dark as a board, so we could only imagine the same was gonna happen with the two boards. So I think it's important that you can communicate to each other, especially when there's this many, you know, recommendations and changes, you know,
And keep
increase-
us in the loop, right?
And keep us in the loop, so we use that information of what you guys are doing going forward the next year.
So moving forward, is the water board foreseeing you meeting quarterly, or do you feel the need to meet more often?
We're meeting quarterly until we get to that last quarter. Then
What
probably
date
more often.
are you typically meeting? Have you set up a concrete date, like the 15th of the third month of each quarter? What do you?
Our next one is January 26th, but it's, let me go to my, we go to attachment 8. It's way in the back of the report.
Yep.
That is the memo that we sent out. So this is our timelines. So if you look at the quarters, you know, because the town and the village run different fiscal years, it makes it very
Correct.
difficult.
Right.
And so because the town has a deadline of January 15th to provide us with the next set of data, we set our meeting at the 26th. So April 15th, we'll probably have our meeting at the end of April, etc. So it's kind of going to be built around there, because the fiscal year that the village uses falls ahead of you by a month. So our meetings will follow your quarters.
Correct.
I would assume that we have a better handle now than we did 2 years ago on what it costs to operate the water plant.
We have a better handle today than we did 11 months ago.
Okay.
That much I can
Anticipating,
attest to.
looking ahead, do you see any large increases in the future, in the next year or two? It's costing us $10,000 more, 2021. 2022, is that gonna go up again? I mean, what do you anticipate?
It's like looking at a crystal ball.
It
I
is.
understand.
There is one piece, we had to put in a new generator because of the current generator, as we all know, was not sized for this water plant. It was, I don't think the engineers even gave it a thought. I really don't. I don't ever remember sitting in any meeting where we talked about a generator being included in that project. So when this got up and running, and we realized that that generator could not run the new plant, we've been on a hairy edge of failure. If we ever had a power outage, as of today, as a matter of fact, what would have to be done is that whole treatment plant, the softening plant, would be shut down. The generator could run the pumps, and we'd pump raw water, we'd chlorinate it, raw chlorinated water, untreated, to the tanks. That's the only way we can keep the village sustained, and the town
Do
sustained.
you have an idea in terms of what the estimated cost of that occurred, what that would be? I mean,
For the new generator?
yeah,
Yeah, we just bought it.
so,
It's $40,000, 39 something for the generator.
Okay.
There's gonna be about another 10,000 in electrical
to put it
installation.
in, yeah.
So that's something that we are gonna have to analyze next year. I don't wanna jump ahead and say how that's going into the O&M, but I just wanna say I don't believe it's gonna be the whole 50,000 being added to the total cost. Because again, we're gonna look at it as what we had compared to what we need now for the new plant. So there's gonna be a portion of that, you know. Because the generator we had, if we had to replace it, would be half the cost.
Understand.
So it'll more than likely be a portion of the additional cost, but I don't wanna speak out of turn because we have to crunch those numbers for the next round, and we don't have them yet.
Okay.
But, I mean, we intend to be fair about that, it's not gonna be a,
How far along are we in relationship to the number of gallons that pass through these filters? As we know, when we talked to Jason, you and I and Kim, in regards to having to replace those filters, the smaller ones aren't as expensive, but as you know, that large one is quite expensive, it's about 60,000. How many gallons have passed through that filter, and what kind of timeline are we looking at before we have to replace that?
we were never given exact numbers in regards to gallons going through it. We were given an estimation of years of service,
Okay.
with no accidents in regards to destroying them by chemicals. If chlorine hits them, they're done. So
Right.
if the plant was to malfunction and chlorinated water got to that section of filtration, then you gotta replace them. But they're not They're not $60,000, do you guys remember?
I thought the large one was, I thought the large one.
Well,
when
we
looked
thought
at
it was, but it's not.
It is much less?
Yeah, it is a lot less.
I don't recall what
You
it
don't
was.
recall the amount?
I didn't think it was a lot less, but it is less than the 60,000.
Yeah, I thought it was about half of that. You don't recall either, Mike? I don't have it documented, so
And so that's something in terms of planning.
Yeah, I mean, 2 years ago, we were behind on our payments to the village, and we finally caught up.
yes.
Anticipate staying caught up, so we really gotta have that little fund balance there to do those things, you know?
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Agreed.
No way around it.
Mhm.
2 years ago, we got behind, and it wasn't what we wanted to be at.
No, it's not a good place to be, I
No,
agree.
but, the village was good with us, we caught up and intend to stay caught up. I do believe our usage is up, I'd have to check on that, but, which helps us a little bit too, you know, more income.
Current?
If there's no other questions, if you would get those copies to Rick, maybe?
Yeah, it's a copy of the water fund is the only one you really need, right? And do we need a copy to each board member? or-
I would like it so that each board member receives it, but I think if you send it to Sarah, I think Sarah can take care of
Yeah,
making
I'll
sure that
just,
we get
I'll,
those.
I'll just have, Juanita email you the,
Is it
Original.
36,
they'll
37?
come through as a PDF.
Correct.
but-
Your work is very much appreciated.
Yes, it is.
There's a lot of
A lot of work.
time and energy and calculations that go into this. And it sounds like you're already in the process of thinking about, what are we missing? How can we make this even more accurate as we go forward in terms of, you know, talk about gallons lost and the calculations, and it's very much appreciated. And maybe overdue, I think that's another comment that should be made, is good. I know from my point, I don't know if the rest of the board would feel this way, I know I would appreciate, and it does not have to be anything lofty or lengthy, whether it's an oral report or a quick little bullet pointed list, maybe at the conclusion of a meeting, as you have them, that maybe both of the municipalities could get some kind of a report from what was discussed at that particular meeting. I don't know if that's.
Like a set of minutes?
Basically, yeah, I think that might be nice for both municipalities to look at as your meeting. That way we're kind of keeping up to
Okay.
date, and we're like, oh, well, they need this, or asking questions, as you say, that, you know, that conversation and the transparency as we go on, I think would be very helpful, I think, for what you're doing, as well as how we can aid your efforts.
We could do
And if
that.
those quarterly reports
sure.
could also include the revenue and the expenditures. You know, so that way the minutes, the numbers that are in the minutes, we can kind of match to the financial statements.
So, you want the revenue and expenses from both municipalities?
Correct, so that we can kind of look at both sides and kind of analyze that in relationship to the numbers that appear in the minutes.
Okay, so I guess in regard to that, when you provide us our quarterly information, just copy your board on it.
Okay.
And I'll ask Wendy to do the same thing. Would that be the simplest?
So you, Rick, you're asking for an ongoing quarterly report on
Correct.
expenses?
Correct, because if you look, that's one of the things that they're requiring in terms of requirements, so if they're meeting.
Would that information be accessible to them at each of their meetings?
I hope so,
Yeah.
otherwise I don't know how they're moving forward,
Right,
right?
yes.
Okay.
That may help with the budgeting.
I think it
So-
will.
So if we're sitting, say,
So
in
let's-
June, we might say, okay, this is, are we realizing already costs are higher? We need to start thinking about getting ready for, you know, that kind of stuff, yeah.
And I would hope that this year we will provide the report sooner. We met the deadline of October 8th that we agreed on in the IMA. But I can see, because you were well into your budget at that point, in hindsight, I think we should have set that back a month.
Mm.
So I'm gonna shoot for September.
why don't you add that to the list of things to discuss? We can, maybe that can be modified or amended when we revisit
can.
the,
We could, but I really don't wanna open that thing up too big where we're gonna have a can of worms that we're gonna
I see what you're saying.
delve into for a long period of time. That's why I referred to it, hopefully we do it as an addendum or something, a short revision. You guys sat with us, through- we don't wanna get back into that
No, I understand.
type of a,
I don't wanna speak for Rick, but I'd be willing to sit on that with
Okay.
both of you if you guys are willing to sit
Okay.
and do that, so.
okay, sounds good. I just wanna add that, you know, the two members that you appointed were a great addition to this board, and the whole board worked in unison. Not once did this board ever not have the same thoughts as to how to be fair.
Everybody came into it open-minded.
Yes, very much open-minded and very much confused for a while, right? Yeah, no, I've enjoyed working with everyone on this board because we've had the same goal, it's trying to look at it fairly. Trying to ensure that we're serving both sides equally. So I hope that
Well, we thank you.
I hope we did what you expected us to do.
I just wanna make one comment. If members of the town board have any questions regarding this, we ask that you please not go through the village board, that you please come to the water board with your questions. If it goes to the village board, sometimes things get lost in translation, or it might not filter to us. So if you do have questions on these documents, that you please reach out to us, as the village board is not the entity that worked on this. So they're not gonna be able to give you the answers that we as a board have worked on for a year.
Right, so the quarterly email that you're requesting with basically the minutes of where we're at in our meetings would be your opportunity if you had questions, fire back at us.
Sure.
But
Well,
in between, please reach out to us and not the village, just because we're the people that work on it. So
Well,
if there's questions on things, it's gonna be easier for us to answer.
I think one of the things that I'd like to recommend to the town is that as we move forward, you know, we meet with Steve and Michael, you know, at least once a quarter and let them kind of answer any questions that, you know, those minutes might contain information that maybe it's not clear, so.
Instead of the whole water board, you would wanna just meet with your town members.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're involved in each of the meetings, so they're just bringing us up to speed in terms of what was
I'm
discussed.
just asking for clarification.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you, Michael.
You're certainly welcome
Thank you,
to
Steve.
stay. Not an issue. Take care.
Good night.
Thanks, see y'all later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like a motion now. We're going through a public hearing for the budget.
I make a motion that we go into a public hearing out of regular session for the budget.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried? Julie, you do have the ad that went in the paper? I don't know if you need to read it all, but go ahead.
Town of Champlain notice of public hearing upon preliminary budget for year 2021. Notice is hereby given that the preliminary budget for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2021 has been completed and filed in the office of the town clerk at Champlain, New York, where it is available for inspection by any interested person at all reasonable hours. Further notice is hereby given that the town board of the town of Champlain will meet and review said preliminary budget and the whole public hearing thereon at the town office in Champlain, New York on Tuesday, November 10th, 2020 at 7:30 p.m. And that all such hearing, any person may be heard in favor of or against any item or items therein contained, pursuant to section 113 of town law. The proposed salaries of the following town elected officials are hereby specified as follows. Supervisor, $19,000. council members, 4 at $6,150. Town clerk tax collector, $29,660.54. Highway superintendent, $19,503 elected. $42,601.84 working superintendent. Notice is also given that the regular town board meeting will be held immediately following the budget hearing by order of the town board.
Thank you. You were all involved in formulating the budget for next year. Sarah, you get into this when need be. I believe our tax rate is up a nickel, 5 cents. It was,
Yes.
let's put it this way. Who's got questions on the budget? Everybody knows, at least the budget includes the EMS assessment at $193,000. The fire district for $418,420. That was halfway down the page there.
Yep.
Okay. The second page is pretty much the general fund, the town-wide highway fund, DA. Okay. This, probably what helped us a little bit, our sales tax revenue was not down as much as we anticipated in the second and third quarter. The fourth quarter is usually the bigger one. It comes in early January, we get that. Kind of saved us. I think we would have had a banner year if the sales tax was way up.
I think that's an important thing, that the taxpayer understands that
Yes.
it could have been a much worse scenario,
It could have.
considering the unprecedented, that's the word of the year, the unprecedented year that 2020 was. So the fact that we've managed to maintain what we're maintaining for our operations and services, and be able to only have to raise the rate, the 5 cents per thousand, is that correct?
Yes.
I think
Oh,
that's, we're very fortunate that that number is where it is. Let's just say, it could have been worse.
I understand the county budget, the final budget is not in place yet until another week or two. We will have no knowledge of what that is. That usually affects the tax bill in January more so than the town does it. Okay. Any questions?
Yes, on page, I think it's 3, long itemized list, down about halfway,
What's the account number?
1990.4.
Yep. Contingent account?
Contingent account, bike path, 25,000.
You on page 3?
Yep.
The A fund.
Pardon?
A,
He's in the A fund.
Correct.
We always put a contingency in there just in case, say the boiler goes down, or, you know what I'm saying,
it says contingency account, bike path. That's what I
16,000.
don't understand.
That's where that.
we have an amount in there to finish the bike path this year. Some of it is part of,
Recreation trail?
yes,
But it's $25,000. that right?
Believe me, that can be eaten real quick.
in 2019, it was 40,000.
What was you? The bike path, you're talking about the fitness trail, right?
Yes, yeah, recreation.
That's not all for the fitness trail.
Correct.
Say if the boiler goes, or
Wait a minute.
Say
What-
if, say that we need to do the front step, or say if, and we didn't put any money aside, and there's a major malfunction here.
Time out, you just lost me.
So what's she
I said
saying, Clark?
contingency amount, $25,000 bike path.
But it's a contingent account. So
Contingent
contingent,
for what? Bike path?
well, it's used for a variety of things, correct?
That's what I don't understand.
Correct.
All right,
But that's, it's the emergency fund. If,
okay.
say we get hit by I don't know, an
Okay.
earthquake and something happens, that amount is there just in case.
I just,
But, like this year, we had our furnace go down,
all right.
and it came out of that contingency amount.
Okay.
It's something that we aren't
Right,
expecting.
I didn't link that, the problems like that with the bike path.
Well, I have it, you know what I'm saying, as my notation, but, most of it is the emergency account. If
Correct.
something happened,
Hopefully this 2021 will be the last year to do any paving on the interior recreational trail.
correct.
But we will continue to put aside an amount in
You
that
have to.
contingent account for the unforeseen. And
Yes,
typically, I mean, you probably don't know off the top of your head, but what percent is that contingent amount of the overall budget?
Makes
Probably
sense.
not a lot. It's a small amount.
correct. But, like I said, if we didn't have that for last year, and the furnace was $10,000.
Yeah.
You try to pull that out of a fund and then filter through.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. We got about 2/3 of our responsibility of repaving the interior recreational trail, and hopefully we're gonna finish it next year. Every year it's come under budget, I believe. It's much better. There'll be a lot less maintenance since we paved it over the rough surface that we had before. I'm sure you've been on it a few
Oh,
times.
no, and there's no doubt that it gets a lot of traffic. I think
Yeah.
now that people are aware that it's there and we continue to promote that it's there, it continues to get a lot of use, and I think it's a-
Does anybody know last year during the winter whether or not, like cross-country skiers or other folks used that trail? Was there a substantial amount?
I live right across from it, so I can see it.
Yeah,
People use it for skiing and snowshoeing.
awesome, that's great. So
And
it's a
snowboarding.
12 month a year, investment,
Yes.
wonderful.
Well, I mowed over there 5 times, I believe, and I've seen several people use that.
I think that porta potty's also
That
a
helped
wonderful
also.
addition.
But,
Hey,
Good location for it.
it is, it is a good, you got the bench right there, people need to rest. It's very, very good.
That was a good addition to the township, I'll tell you that.
Absolutely.
And both villages, it connects the villages if they want to.
yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
I got no problem with that, put money for that. Worthwhile. I compliment Sarah, she's done a real good job of pulling the budget together for us. I ask questions, I get answers real quick most of the time. Okay.
And I do enjoy seeing the notations on that right-hand column, because I think it makes things a heck of a lot easier. In the past, it was very difficult to try to figure out account X, Y, Z, so thank you.
I think that's an understatement, but truly, it's, for the layman, this is a no-brainer.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's no other questions, I entertain a motion to approve the 2021 budget as presented.
I'll second that, or I'll make a motion. to
Okay, thank you.
The final
Yeah, I'll,
2021 budget.
Thank you,
and I'll second that.
thank you. We'll have a roll call vote on a budget this large. Rick,
Aye.
Brian,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye,
Jason,
Aye.
and I for myself, thank you.
sir, nice job.
Very nice job. I'd like the motion to go back into regular session.
I'll make a,
Oh, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to go back into regular session.
Okay, thank you. A couple other things I got on my list here. We need to address the request for a reduction in EDUs on the old bowling alley. New owner, new usage. It went from commercial to storage. There was, and we've been through this before, we told the owner that when the usage changed, we would take another look at the number of ADUs charged against that property. There is a trailer on that property, which is one ADU. Way back, a year or two ago, told that trailer disappears, we reduced that by one. It has not, to my knowledge, it's still there. There was a total of 4 EDUs, one on the trailer, 3 on the building. The building has changed usage. We're recommending, and I checked on 2 other storage units. One was much smaller, which had 1 on it, 1 ADU. It was roughly 30-some hundred square feet. The big building on the bowling alley is 19,200 feet, like 6 times as big. I would like a recommendation that we do reduce that somewhat, and to what, I don't know.
You did talk to our assessor,
We talked it, okay.
about that.
The small one's 3,000 square feet, it only has 1 ADU. The other one, another storage unit's along Route 11, on the right-hand side going east, has 1.5 on it, like 2 parcels together, one next to each other. One's a half and one's a full EDU. So I believe we should reduce the bowling alley down to,
Well, the property formerly the bowling alley.
yes. Thank you. For that correction.
Storage facility.
To storage, knowing what I know about the other ones, I believe 2.5 would be fair. If there's any thoughts on that, I'll entertain it.
What's it currently at? It's currently at 4.
4, but 1 goes to the trailer.
Right,
So there's 3 on the building. If we reduce it to half of those 3, that'll bring the total down to 2.5. From 4 to 2.5. Right. It's whatever the will of the board is.
I have no problem with the calculation, okay?
Okay?
But I really truly believe that we need to establish we need to establish a policy guideline. And I'm not necessarily endorsing this one, or not endorsing it, but if you look at the water report document on page 10,
Right,
they show what the village does,
correct.
okay? And if you look somewhere right near
Page
that-
25 and 26, you'll find the town of Champlain's EDU
25,
consolidated.
26,
Correct.
okay? Is there anything within our guidelines that would substantiate or question Larry's recommendation? Is there anything in there that even references what this guy's doing, wants to do there? My point is, we don't have our list inclusive enough. And I think that's one of the things we need to do, not necessarily now, but we come up with a set of guidelines that we could say to Tetro or the new corporate officer, or you've just been elected as the EDU assessor here, Rick. So whoever it is, to take this and go out and look at it and say, okay, the recommendation is 2.5, here's to the board. And the board then probably rubber stamps it or questions it. So, I have no question, no fault with what Larry's recommending, but I think we need to protect ourselves, because somebody down the road wanting to do the same thing is gonna question why we did something different. Right down the road, there is the former fitness center, okay, which is now pure storage.
Right.
I was in there about a week and a half ago, and I saw you guys got boats and campers and cars, and they're just stacking them in there for the winter. That's it. It's a storage building. It's essentially the same thing that this guy could do with his former bowling alley. I don't know how many square feet that is down there, and I don't know what his EDU assessment is. Hopefully they're compatible with what we're doing right now, so that we're protected, we're consistent. So, I agree with what Larry's recommended.
Well, I'm just trying to compare with other size facilities and be fair with everybody.
Correct.
I don't know where to go. I mean, that's, I'm open to discussion. Any suggestions? Comments? We did agree to revisit when there was a change of use, and I believe in good faith we're doing that. And,
That's a vacant commercial building, right?
Yes.
Okay. If that was in the village, it'd be one for every 20,000 square
Square
feet,
feet, correct.
which is about what we're doing here.
It is.
It is,
Okay.
so it's fair in
One
terms
plus
of.
two is three.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep, so your recommendation is 2.5.
It's not-
Total, now if
Yeah.
the trailer.
Total, correct.
If the trailer goes off, it comes down to 1.5,
I agree.
okay?
Okay.
And maybe we'll send them a note and state that fact, if the trailer is removed,
Yeah,
let us know and. Okay, 2.5 including the trailer.
We would call that a vacant commercial building? Right?
Well, it's not vacant, it's a storage, I mean, there's a little difference, but.
Okay, but it's, okay, storage. Um,
I believe it's a fair compromise.
I think so.
does anybody else have any thoughts? If not, I'd like to make a motion that, in relationship to tax parcel ID 20.-1-18.1, that we set the number of EDUs to 2.5.
Thank you,
I will second that.
thank you. Any questions, concerns? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Julie, will you get a letter off to him somehow? Reflect that if that trailer goes off, it goes, reduces further. Thank you. I mentioned to a couple of guys just before the meeting, next Wednesday, we're going to mediation, with the mediator will be here at 9 o'clock in the morning. As you know, a couple months ago, we put our old sand pit up for bid, we did not get any bids on it. It was Alan's recommendation, or thought, I should say, that maybe we could contact a realtor, see if he could sell it. I called the Association of Towns today to see, and I spoke with an attorney down there. It's very, who was with me? Brian was in it with me then. Yes, we can put it in the realtor's hand, but we still have to sell it at fair market value, or somewhere near it, okay? And if it's sold to another township or something, it's different than selling it to an individual. If you sell it to an individual, you have to have what they call a
Subject to a permissive referendum.
referendum. In other words, you announce that you have a bid at a public meeting, and the public has the right to petition a public vote on that within 30 days. They got 30 days to petition the board. You could either have a special election to vote it up or down, or wait till the next annual election. Okay? My only thought was, we're not using it, it's been a couple, 3 years since we've used it. It's costing us roughly $800 a year land and school taxes. Okay, get rid of it. I say get rid of it. But when there's a lady attorney today, when she told me you gotta be somewheres near fair market value. You know, the realtor can't come in and offer you half or something, you know. So be it. And I understand there is 2 possible building lots on that pit, near the road. So very well might sell that way, I don't know.
Do you want to announce, just in case anyone's interested, where it is and?
It's on the Embry Road in Moores. Acreage, what, 16 acres came to my
Yeah,
mind,
Yeah, you thought about
Roughly?
16 acres. And it's
roughly, okay? It's
roughly
a,
16 acres.
it's a reclaimed sand pit. We had to reseed it, in order to cancel out the DEC permit. We had to put it back to vegetation on it, so for erosion and stuff. And that, DEC's released it, let's put it that way. Okay, we can sell it.
It's a good spot, for maybe hunters or somebody who wanted to, you know, build and be away from things.
Yeah,
And they could contact the town or if they have
Yes.
a need for more
Anyways.
information. We'd be happy to.
does anybody have any thoughts on a realtor, or the local one that I know best in Champlain is, you know, Kavanaugh Realty, but we could entertain it to anybody. Once it goes to one realtor, it goes on multiple listings.
Correct.
Right.
So they all get it, you
So
know,
I think Kavanaugh's is fine.
okay? I'll contact somebody there and see if they wanna list it. And the assessed value was $18,900, I believe. So maybe for the record, I should have a motion to approve listing it.
I'll make a motion that we, list the property that the town owns, the old sand lot, through a realtor.
Okay, thank you,
I'll second it.
thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried? I have nothing else, we got bills to pay. Do you have anything, Julie?
Just the water district disbursement voucher.
You have your abstracts, which are automatically paid every month. We need to approve the monthly bills. You all have them there, I hope.
I'll make a motion that we pay the monthly bills.
Thank you,
Second that.
thank you. Is there any questions on any of them? I did review them. If there's no questions or concerns, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That also pays the bills, thank you.
Water district number 6 disbursement approval number 62. Bernier and Carr for $27,114.31 and $1,447.50.
It doesn't end, does it?
We'll be getting bills for the next 2 years.
Eventually.
Well, there was never our money.
Yeah, there's not gonna be anything left.
Okay.
Let me do the other one now.
Sure.
Water district number 6 disbursement approval number 63. It's TKT leasing, I believe.
TNT leasing,
Oh, TNT leasing for $4,800.
That's a tough deal.
that's for the Mill Street valve.
What's that, Sarah?
That's for the Mill Street valve?
Yes. That was done last week. We waited a long time to get that one done.
Yeah.
And it was done very quickly and efficiently, and it's done. And the vaults are all done in the village.
Insulated.
Insulated the vaults, yes. Went very smoothly, actually under what we had estimated.
About
Maybe we
800
should do
under.
all the estimates on the job, they come under. last Friday with one person, and yesterday Mickey worked with two other guys, we got it done very efficiently. Everybody's happy. They have not froze up for the past 3 years that they've been in use, and we didn't wanna take that chance. The total bill for that is a shade less than $1,900 for 7. So we think that was, okay. Is that on here tonight? No, I don't think so. Anything else, Julie?
No, that's all I have.
Does anybody else have anything to bring forward?
Dog report,
We gotta approve
Pardon?
those,
dog
Yeah.
report?
Oh, yeah,
we gotta approve those first.
Correct.
yeah, you got your dog report, you got it right here in front of me. Very interesting, reading these.
It is.
Sometimes you see the same people complaining several times a year sometimes. Barking dog.
That's because it's occurring in the same geographic area. Yeah, they're not,
Yeah. Okay. I
oops.
I think I do need an executive session for a contractual issue. I don't believe I wanna discuss it in public, okay?
Can I, before you do that?
Yes.
Well, we need a motion for those.
Okay,
We can get a motion for those, yeah.
No, I'm just waiting for them to go around.
Oh,
Yeah, and just,
are we doing them as one lump sum or as?
No, I do them separate,
Okay,
just so that we have them in the minutes as separate.
Which is the first one, Julie?
Number 62?
yes.
Okay.
Are you done with 62?
I'm done with this one.
I just wanna make sure before they have questions, before we go ahead.
They still have Matt Cooper billing us.
I'll be right back.
I'll make a motion to approve, bill number 63
62?
for, TNT leasing for a total of $4,800.
I will second that.
In Larry's absence, all those in favor?
I don't know, can we do that?
Julie can put it down in a minute. It passed.
Put it one for your auditorium last night.
So are you excited about maybe someday stepping into a local government seat?
I mean, I wouldn't be bored by it.
Well, you won't get bored, there's a lot to keep you intrigued.
I've stayed interested this whole time, so.
Good. Good to hear.
You're in high school?
Yeah,
Very difficult to find young people with enthusiasm who want to get involved in the various
What's
levels
the
of
total on this one, Julie?
town
So I don't
affairs.
have to do the math.
27, 114.31, and another 1447.50.
Okay. I'll make, I made a motion on that one.
We had a first and a second on the,
Oh.
number 63.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
I'll make a motion to approve expenditure number 62 to Bernier and Carr Associates. Two totals, $27,114.31, and an additional $1,447.50.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Thank you.
Are we good now with the bills?
Yeah,
Okay. A couple of things. One, I think we should commend all the poll workers and the town staff and everybody that had a hand in the election that took place a week ago today. It was quite the undertaking here in the building. Multiple times, I guess people drove by, the line was out the door. It was a slightly chilly day, and it's a testament to the people that were willing to stand and exercise their right to vote, and work through the pandemic and the COVID conditions. I think there's a lot of thanks that should be had to the people that were running that, to the County Board of Elections, to our local poll workers, and obviously to the people in the town of Champlain that were willing to make the amended necessities to be able to all come here and vote and have that be very, very successful, so.
Yeah.
Jason, I'm gonna add something, and I'm gonna recommend to the Clinton County Board of Elections that I thought that, you know, given the COVID conditions, I thought the proximity of where everybody was and things were in here was too close and too tight. I know we don't wanna keep people out in the cold for a longer period of time, but I will say, I felt like there should have been more room, you know, in between individuals.
Maybe this room may not be conducive for this
Well,
problem.
I didn't know if like maybe more needs to be moved out of the room, or if it's a restructuring of the room, Jason. I agree, there was a lot of work and a lot of effort that went in, but given these situations and conditions, I just felt that this room was very,
It was overwhelming,
Yeah.
no doubt about it.
so I just wanna put that on public record, so.
Thank you.
Anything
else?
One of the things that may come up at some point that takes some of our water funds, the balance that we have, are, there's discussion over, we need to maintain the fire hydrants in
Oh, yeah.
town. And that may cost us quite a bit of money, because I don't know how you get to some of them. I mean, they're down in the ditch, main ditch, they're way off the road. But we are gonna, we may have to pay for some of that snow removal to make the hydrants accessible, fire
You're
hydrants.
talking about just keeping them through the snow, or are they not installed, still not installed?
No, getting to them,
Getting to them, okay.
yes, I mean,
How many total hydrants are there, Brian? Do you know?
I thought there was 80, but I mean.
I thought it was 60
I
something.
thought it was like 60-something too. but I
Well,
wasn't-
we can look, but either way, whether
Correct.
it's 60 or 80,
Now,
it's a,
good discussion today was, in our water budget, or account, we have money. Could we just hire somebody? It'd probably take a couple days after a storm, okay? And what do we get, half a dozen storms a winter maybe?
well, it's
Well, we don't know that.
No, the trouble is that they plow you back in, 2 days later, if you're on a state highway, of course, and
Yeah.
they plow you back in, even on the town highway, I'm sure they
There's
plow you
a-
back in.
No, there's very few on the town highway.
Well, there's enough,
Where?
Hayford Road,
Yeah, that's true,
and then, on, South Street at the end,
yes.
they got those,
Most of them are either on state or county roads.
yeah, which are
90%.
worse,
Yes.
because they really bury you
It
in.
makes sense to have a name or two on call,
Yes,
and Alan says, hey, we got some
Well-
problems out here. Either you or Alan calls this person and said, hey, you gotta check the hydrants. They're on the clock, and so much per hour they go.
Well,
in.
the hard part is you might have to get some kind of specialized equipment. I'm not sure, like on Route 11, down by the horse farm. They got, it's, I don't know, almost 20 feet
Open
up.
fields.
Right.
Yeah, it's downhill. I mean,
that's a lot of handwork there. You
I
gotta
don't,
walk behind snowboarders. How do you get it down there easy? How are you gonna get it back out?
yeah,
It's true.
it's just something to throw out that may be taking up some of our surplus, come this winter, which is almost here. But, if possible, the fire department would like that we
Right.
look into it. And I don't know if the town crew could do it. It's not something you can hand shovel, I suppose it is, but I can't imagine anybody
Then the snowplow goes by and throws another
right back.
bank there.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, well, think about
That's an
that.
example of the water fund going down a little bit right off the bat that we hadn't expected.
Would that be a highway problem or a waterfront problem? But that,
Well, I
how
wouldn't
do
be
you
highway,
categorize moving snow?
yeah, but I don't think that would be.
No, I don't think that's, no.
It's, you're keeping the hydrants open for the fire department, I mean, it's just a water thing, you're
Okay.
not, the snow happens to be
We
in the
plow
way.
roads, we plow driveways, we plow sidewalks. That couldn't be included in other, I'm just playing devil's advocate here, I'm not trying to lay something else on Alan, but.
Right.
I'm assuming that it would be water, you know, be much simpler, because they're gonna be doing the plowing at the same, you know,
Right.
they're opposite each other in their things. One guy will be shoveling it out, and the town will come along, or the state come along and fill it in, the guy's gotta go back and,
It might be a front end loader having to go out there and move snow out of the way,
oh boy.
rather than somebody with a shovel.
That's a full day's work, huh?
Yeah,
At least.
those that are, I think some of them are what, 5, 6 feet below road level?
That's what I was gonna say.
Oh,
Yeah,
You
something,
ain't
Yeah,
you
that's
don't
a-
get
that's
a
a
loader
full-
down there, even,
down embankments, yeah.
I mean, I got a 42-inch riding snowblower. I get down in the ditch that deep, I ain't coming out.
So it's gonna take something heavier.
Got
I
weights
think
on the
so.
back, but still ain't coming out.
Heavy machinery,
Like that,
heavy
you know?
equipment, yeah.
Well, anyways, we'll play it by ear. If we have to hire somebody,
That should, I guess, be the, maybe a note, talk about winter is coming, we should remind people to take caution out on the roads, and, the highway department's already been out once, we had our little snowstorm.
if I'm correct, in the city of Plattsburgh, there's a fire hydrant out in front of your house.
Yes, yes, that's correct, you're to maintain the stuff in front of your home, including the sidewalk.
And sometimes people actually even shovel it, not often, but sometimes.
Okay. If nothing else, I need a 5-minute discussion on contracts, a possible contract.
I make a motion that we leave regular session and go into executive session.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Sarah,